guys, it's Mrs. C back with another little lesson on the coordinate planes. You'll notice the title of this says polygons on the coordinate plane, and I want you to remember that polygons are shapes, closed shapes, right? So you can't leave it open like the letter C in my name. You have to close it off, but it also can't have any curved shapes either. So triangles and quadrilaterals and pentagons and all those things are polygons, okay? And they asked us to plot the points, which you can see I've already done here. Today's lesson focuses on finding distance between 2 points. So it's easy when we have a coordinate plane because really we can just count, right? So they're saying to find the distance between 2 points that have the same x or same y coordinate. So they're asking us to look at point B and point C. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to write down the points for point B, which I see is -3, -2. And then point C is at 4, -2. Do you notice anything that they have in common? I really hope you do, right? They have the same y coordinate. Remember, the second one is the y, the first one is the x. So what we're going to do when I'm looking at this is ignore the coordinate that they have in common, the one that is the same. So I'm just going to cross those out because we're not going to look at that part. Now, if I have the coordinate plane, I can just look at B and C and count them. I go, oh, okay, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 apart from each other. But you are going to get some questions, especially in the higher point value for IXL, that they're not going to give you a coordinate plane. You can always draw one or print one out and work it out that way. But there is a way to do it without the coordinate plane. Okay, so if your 2 points that you're looking at and you're trying to find the distance between the two of them are in different quadrants, you can notice that point B here is in the 3rd quadrant and point C is in the 4th quadrant. And if they're in different quadrants, and that's important that they're in different quadrants, you can find how far apart they are just by remembering some things we did in the beginning of the year. Who remembers what this means? So if I write this down, I'm hoping that you will say in your head, absolute value, right? And we had done that so much in the beginning of the year. And that's correct. That is the absolute value. So what you're going to do is if they're in different quadrants, you're going to add their absolute values. You're going to take the coordinate that is different from each other, and you're going to add those absolute values. So the absolute value of -3 plus the absolute value of 4. Well, what's the absolute value of -3? I hope you're all out there shouting 3, because that's what it is. 3 plus, what's the absolute value of 4? Go ahead and yell it out. 4, right? People might think you're hitting golf balls if you're just yelling 4 in your living room, but that's okay because you're doing math. All right, so what's 3 plus 4? That equals 7. That is exactly what we came up with when we counted them on the coordinate plane. Let's try it again. So they're asking us to do points A and E. So again, the first thing I'm going to do is write them down. Okay, so A is at -1, -4, and E is at -1, 3. Okay, so when I take a look at this, I am going to try to find the one that they have in common. I notice that they both have a -1. Both of their x coordinates are -1, so I'm going to cross those out. And then I have -4 and 3. Again, to find the distance, because they're in different quadrants, I am going to add their absolute values. The absolute value of -4 is 4, plus the absolute value of 3 is 3. So 3 plus 4 is 7. I can go back and check this fact, right? So if I go back up here and I'm looking at point A and E, I'm going to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Again, Most of the IXL skills you're going to have a coordinate plane. You can feel free to count them. Just make sure that they didn't give you a different scale, that each one is actually worth just one block. Sometimes they're worth two, and we have to make sure we're paying attention to that. Let's do a few more examples, and then I'm going to show you one that is if they're in the same quadrant, okay, because that's a little different. But B and D. So if I look at B and D are in different quadrants, okay? So I'm going to write down what their coordinates are. I have -3, -2. That's for point B. Point D is at 1, -2, okay? I'm going to look for what they have in common. They both have -2s as their y coordinates, so I'm going to cross those out. And now I'm going to add their absolute values. The absolute value of -3 is 3. The absolute value of 1 is 1. 3 plus 1 is 4, right? So I go back and I can again check it to make sure I'm right. So if I look at B and D, so B is over here in quadrant 3, D is in quadrant 4, and I count these out. Let me get a different color so you can tell what I'm doing. I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, and they are in fact 4 units apart from each other. We now have C and F. We'll try it one more time like this. So if I look back at C, I can see it's 4, -2. So I'm going to write that down. It's 4, -2, right? And point F is at 4, 2. Okay, 4, 2. I'm going to look for what they have in common. Again, they both have 4s, so I'm going to cross that out because I don't need what they have in common. I need to know what they don't have in common. So it's -2 and 2. So what I'm going to do is find the absolute value. The absolute value of -2 is 2. I'm running out of room, sorry, right, is 2. Plus the absolute value of 2, again, is 2. 2 plus 2 equals 4. Okay, so I can go back and check it if I look at C and F. So they're over here, and I count 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so if they're in different quadrants, that's all you have to do is to add their absolute values. But what if they're in the same quadrant? Okay, so if I take a look over here, I see that point D and point C are in the same quadrant. So that's the tricky part. And I'm going to put a little star here. I added a little piece of paper. And I'm going to say to myself, if they're in the same quadrant, right, same quadrant, right, we need to just subtract them. What does that mean? Okay, well, when I look at this and I see the grid, I can see that they are just 1, 2, 3 units apart, right? So if I go and write down that they're, if I go and write down their coordinates, D is at 1, -2, right? Letter D. And letter C is at 4, -2. Okay. Again, I ignore the one that is exactly the same. I'm ignoring those. So -2 and -2, I knock those out. So now I'm left with 1 and 4. Well, if I try the other trick and do their absolute value, the absolute value is 1 and the absolute value of 4 is 4. So 1 plus 4 is 5. That is not the answer to this question. So if they are in the same quadrant, we have to remember to subtract them. So take the bigger number, which in this case is 4, and you subtract the smaller number, which is 1, you get 3. And the answer is, in fact, 3. They are 3 away from each other. This is the special case that you have to be careful of. I'm going to send you, or I'm going to give you this sheet so that maybe you can work along with me and have that at your side when you are solving them. Again, on IXL, most of them they have the coordinate plane for you. So all you have to do is count. Just be careful of the scale. But there are, when you get to the bigger numbers, like into the higher 70s and the 80s, they just start giving you the points. And that's where you have to do this trick, where you're finding If they're in different quadrants, you are adding their absolute value. If they're in the same quadrant, you have to subtract. Okay. As always, if you have a question, you can email me, or we can do a private or a small group Google Meet, and we can work on it. And I'll be back with another video tomorrow. Have a great day, guys.